Well, I never. Alright people, what we have here is what we in the trade like to call a gimmick film, which you've got to treat a little different to a normal film, because you don't go to films of this type for the story or characters or anything like that. You go for the gimmick, to be impressed by it, to be entertained by it, and to see if this gimmick will take off. Now, cinema's most popular gimmick is the utterly ghastly 3D, which comes around every decade or so, ruins blockbusters for a couple of years, and then slinks off again until the next time studios think that they can squeeze more money out of filmgoers via a pair of uncomfortable, easily smudged glasses. Looking at you, Black Widow, probably for the last time ever as a film and not as a legal story. Some gimmicks are way too beautiful to exist for more than one film every 30 years or so. Such as the time Spy Kids tried to utilise aromascope to allow people to smell odours and aromas from the film via scratch and sniff cards, which you utilise when prompted to by the film itself. And don't look at me like that. I was working in a cinema when this happened. To say it created a lot of confused and terrified adults would be an understatement.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
But Crazy Samurai 400 vs 1 / Crazy Samurai Musashi, this film has two titles but no Wikipedia page at time of recording, has my most favourite, wonderful and difficult gimmick in all of cinema, which is of course the one-take film. Now, I don't mean one take like Sam Mendes did in the absolutely incredible 1917, where he just got a bit clever with the editing. The longest take was actually 8.5 minutes. The gimmick for this film is that the meat of the film is, according to IMDb, in this 77-minute one-take scene, no-cut action sequence, Miyamoto Taksakuchi, apologies, defeats 588 enemies, one after the other. There is no room for error, no room for corny or unconvincing moves. End quote, and I'll circle back to that bit about corny or unconvincing moves. So, yeah, I mean, that's one hell of a gimmick. I mean, a 77-minute fight scene, my heart goes out to the fight choreographer, the stunt guys, and the poor camera person's spine, because those things are seriously heavy, especially when you're trying to capture something as flowing as a fight scene. The lead actor deserves some sort of award as well, because that guy is on screen for pretty much the entire take and looks seriously shattered by the end of it all. So, well done, and a nice cold pint to him for the culmination of what must have been a serious amount of work. Unfortunately, the work is seriously dull. Look, I get and understand the incredible effort that must have gone into making this thing, but it's just such a waste. I'll start with the fact that what little plot this film has is, I think, being told backwards. As far as I could puzzle out, two clans are fighting. One has 400 soldiers, 100 of their own and 300 mercenaries, and the other clan sends their best man to take care of the first clan's leaders. Now, instead of having the lone operative fight through waves of their enemies on his way to the enemy's leader, the film starts with him slipping like a shadow into the enemy's camp and killing the leader, then having to kill the 400 on his way from his assassination mission. That just seems backwards to me, but whatever. Like I said, gimmick films aren't about plot.
Now for the icing on the cake. Why did you want another?
They're about the gimmick. Whilst at first the one unbroken take thing seems amazing, it gets boring after 10 minutes or so. Apparently in ancient Japan, no one had any form of projectile weapons, no bows, throwing stars, spears, no form of weapon except swords, and no apparent way of wielding them, apart from raising them above your head and running into battle screaming after the same tactic as just 10 of your comrades to be dispatched faster than drinks at this film's rap party. I get why you'd want to keep the amount of weapons small so as to help reduce the insane amount of choreography, but it does mean that the red shirts are on the gamut from some bloke with a sword to some bloke with a sword to a sword being wielded by some bloke. Actually, no, I tell a lie. There was one guy who didn't have a sword. He had a ball on a chain and seemed to have history with our lead, but he was quickly dispatched, and instead of being near the end of the film, he was in the first third, which again seems backward. Now, whilst there is something of interest in watching our lead get progressively more and more exhausted as he faces seemingly insurmountable odds, the fight themselves seem, for want of a better word, a bit video gamey. Our lead is surrounded 20 to 1, but they all very politely attack one at a time instead of rushing him all at once, and they tend to be either cut in a limb or a foot, at which point they will run off set, change their hair slightly, and come back a few minutes later as someone else ready to do it all over again and again and again. And whilst the locations change, the fights never do, and after 15 minutes of the uncut take, the first 10 minutes of setting the scene and have edits as normal, I got the feeling that I'd seen what this film had to offer, and I was pretty much right. Looking back at this film, my main memories aren't of the unending fight scene, it's the small moment where two red shirts debate what the point of attacking the lead is. They failed. Their master is dead, as along with many of their colleagues, so why not just let him go? Or when our lead stops for a glass of water and a new sword, looking more and more exhausted, because whilst this gimmick is amazing in theory, in practice, it's just not very involving for an action-heavy film. I spent the back half idly wondering what the film would be like if, say, it had been directed by Zack Snyder and given the 300 treatment, or even turned into an anime film and decided that it would be better. I mean, that's not to say that this film shouldn't be applauded for its vision and the lead being so dedicated that he broke a finger, a rib, and 4 of his teeth during the 77-minute battle sequence, but this was meant to be a 10-minute short, and I think it would have been a better idea for this, maybe going to 15 at a stretch. So yeah, Crazy Samurai 400 vs 1 / Crazy Samurai Musashi is a gimmick film in which the gimmick sadly doesn't work. Now, I know this can work because it did for Victoria 2015, which had multiple locations, genres, a few slight action scenes, and slightly developed characters all during one take. So just watch that if you're after a feature-length one-take wonder. As is, it's a nice idea, but it needed its plot reversed, more variety in its fight scenes and enemies, and perhaps a spot or two more blood aside from the terrible CGI. As is, if nothing else is on, then check this film out. Otherwise, just don't bother. But what did you guys think, and what is your favourite one or long take film? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, it's been a Dunking. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe.